I have had all sorts of good juju working this morning. So before I knew it, I looked up and, oh my God, I haven't got my workout in. So can't not do that.
What did you do for a workout this morning?
I've just been using my tread climber. I've got this Bowflex tread climber that beats my ass. It's probably, I mean, to anybody that actually that actually works out probably is unimpressed by that. But such is life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Running. Almost all of my exercise is from running. And just it works great for me.
Yeah, I mean, like if I can maintain 4 miles an hour on the highest level of resistance, it's like it's a combination stair step, treadmill, and resistance, like an elliptical. It's like all three of those combined together into one, and it kicks my ass. So like I'm in a full on sweat. Burn anywhere from 500 to 800, 900 calories for my workout, and energized. So anyway, I'm nice and glowy now, huh?
Nice. Very cool. Yeah, I was going to try to squeeze a run in this morning, but I think I'm actually going to do that after we finish up here.
Cool.
So we want to talk a little bit today about responsiveness, and there are all sorts of different ways that you can increase the responsiveness of an existing list, or that you can set up your opt-in process, or your lead acquisition process, or the process by which people get on your list. There are all sorts of ways that you can improve what you're doing in order to make that a better experience for your people, for them to trust you, like you, want to hear from you more, look forward to receiving your communications. And when we say list, we're generally referring to an email list, but this isn't exclusively about email lists anymore. There's so many different ways that you can communicate with your people. But email, in my opinion, is the media. It's the core medium of choice, right? And we can talk about that more a little bit later too. So I first started learning about the idea of responsiveness from you, Joshua, with NPOD and the whole idea of the X factor and creating hyper responsives. And so maybe we could talk about the X factor for a little while and how this concept that you discovered, what it is and why it's one of the contributing factors. I'd like to talk about a bunch of different ways to increase responsiveness, both tactical and strategic,
Cool. Yeah. Hey, Gene, how are you? Well,
Morning, Gene.
The way that I discovered the X factor is kind of by accident, right? I got started in internet marketing after being really solidly grounded in offline direct response marketing, direct mail, two-step ads, those types of things. And I kind of resisted getting involved in the internet because I didn't understand it. It didn't make sense to me. I couldn't, like, what's this www stuff? And I mean, like, so you just type it in your computer and what do you do there? And, it didn't compute in my brain until somebody showed me, this was in 1996, 97, in that time frame, that showed me the concept of bulk email, as it was called back then. It's no longer legal today. It's now what we'd call spam. But when I understood the way that email was working and that you could actually target people via email, the lights went on for me. And I was like, well, now this makes sense. I get this. So I can reach out to somebody. The concept of a website bewildered me because to me, it felt like a billboard in the desert. You know what I mean?
Like a brochure sitting at the coffee shop. Right?
Yeah. And I was like, well, how do people see that? Why would they want to see it? Who gives a shit, know?
Right.
And but email, now that made sense to me because I could actually send a message. And so I discovered what email was. I didn't know what it was. I discovered that it was a lot like direct mail, only instantaneous. And like that. And so I then got real interested in learning about marketing online and transferring, because back then in 96, 97, it was pretty much commonly understood or respected that you couldn't sell anything online.
Right.
Like people didn't trust putting their credit cards in. They didn't trust the technology wasn't there. The
Right.
secured encryption, all of that didn't exist back then, right? Um, so like everybody used the mediums for lead gen, for to build relationship and to move them offline into a sales conversation, a conversion conversation offline. At least primarily. And so I started to research and find out some people that were actually making money, actually selling online in as early as 96, 97. And even though the bulk of it was still with lead gen, right? So I had a successful offline marketing campaign, a two-step ad approach and direct sales approach, direct mail as a follow-up to convert. And it didn't, like I said, well, I figured, well, I could just do the same thing online, right? Just transfer it over and come to find out, well, it doesn't work like that, right? Let's see what Garrett said. Yeah, I can't imagine what it was like to email 20 years ago, man. It was a whole other category, for sure. You know what I mean? Like it was another world, and yet kind of the same. I mean, like the principles that I had to learn back then that was so hard to get people to trust you and to actually listen to you because it was such a new technology and the only people online were, early adopters and those people that were daring enough to do. I mean, like this was the age, you got to remember, this was the age of computer bulletin boards and CompuServe and all like that, right? And so a lot of the things that I kind of like stumbled onto work even better today because they're the foundational principles that can cut through the noise of all the caca, gumming up the attention spans and focuses of everybody today. So anyway, where I discovered the process is that I had written a book and that I couldn't just transfer the same sales model into an online environment and have it perform the same way. So I researched out somebody that had figured it out before me and got them to coach me, mentor me, and in talking with them,
All the
they shared the wisdom of how they were doing it and what they would recommend that I did. And so I created these, newsletters and these free tips, which actually came later. But the process was, they said, don't ever, you've got to have an opt-in newsletter list. You must do that. You have to build your email list. That's the most important thing. And I said, okay, I didn't know any better. So it makes sense to me. But I didn't have anything to tell them right then and there because I had one particular book manual that I was selling, and I didn't have anything else. It was one product. It was one program for what was it? I think it was $47 back then, and the way that it was recommended to me to build out my site was to take different tips and content from my book and give parts of it away for free and direct them all to the special report sales letter, and then from there enroll them in purchasing the program. And so that's what I did. There was like 7 or 8 tips or something like that all led to the sales letter. And whenever somebody came to the site, they would, scroll through, and whenever they wanted to, the bottom of every page was for more tips and tricks, click here to continue. And that was the main, special report process. And so the long and the short of it was I didn't know what I was going to write about in the newsletter stuff. So I started thinking, well, let me produce another product. And if I can write a chapter a month, so to speak, with, over the course of the next 12 to 15 months, I'd have another product that I could then deliver. And so I just focused on making the content as good as I possibly could and delivering that. And unbeknownst to me, it created this strong following and engagement and, process by which people were really hyper responsive. And that's what ended up turning into the X factor downstream.
So what would you say the definition of the X factor is?
It's systematically and consistently converting complete strangers into trusted advisor type, relationship where you become their consigliere or their Oprah, so to speak, in a by design way, so that there's a specific process that you move people through and you systemize it so that once you put it in place, you can set it and forget it, to quote Ron Popeil, that it does the relationship building process. If you do it right, at least with one segment, then the feeders of the people coming in, it builds the right rapport, takes them from stranger to the point where they're now not only liking you, because we talked about like people say that you got to know, like, and trust somebody before you'll do business with them.
Right.
Actually, they leave out a very, very important, most important key element of the emotional relationship building thing. It's beyond trust. They've got to respect you. So know, like, trust you enough to listen to you, and then be willing to respect you. And that comes down to your authority at that level on a particular subject. Like there's certain things that people will respect my opinion on, come to me for advice on. And there's certain things that they won't come to me for advice on, because they have a higher degree of skill or an authority in that area, and I don't. So I might go to them on that, right? And so I might follow their recommendations. And so, I mean, basically what the X factor was building this relationship building process deliberately by design into your list building journey, and then putting it in an automated fashion or a systematic fashion that you could dial up, dial down, and expand out different avenues of people coming into that. And it works as well today as it did back in 96, 97. Like I said, even better in some respects. So
that's right. Very interesting. We got some cool people. So this is a super powerful piece, Joshua, that you're sharing. And when I originally learned it was when I was first getting started, and I was able to actually apply it to my very first autoresponder sequence. And it changed everything, because that's what we did with List Crusade, which is interesting. Garrett White, I don't know if you know Garrett or not.
The name's familiar. Garrett's name's familiar.
Super, super big. He says, Tellman, you were the first email master I was ever pointed to like 12 years ago, and then you disappeared, and now you're back. I disappeared into hypnosis land for about a decade. All I've been doing is creating and selling my hypnosis programs in the more woo-woo personal development market. And I got really bored doing that, frankly. I'm a great hypnotist, but I got very bored just the business got boring. And during that process, kind of I discovered this whole fictional marketing thing, and which maybe we'll talk about that in a minute. That now we're doing on a much higher level with fictional marketing and email marketing mascots. So I don't know that you and I have ever directly connected, but I would totally love to get on the phone and have a chat at some point, Garrett, if you're up for it. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it, and thanks for chiming in, Garrett. You have a very unique, as a matter of fact, you have a very, very unique voice in the marketplace, and you've set a lot of standards, I think, in particular in your market with your tone, your voice, your style, and obviously not everybody likes it. You seem like you're a pretty, polarizing dude. And I'm just curious about what's a takeaway or a tip or a philosophy that you found in your years as a direct response marketer that's helped you build such a deep and, as far as I can tell, a pretty respected bond with a large, large group of people that you've helped with several different issues over the last, however many years. And so you're such a loud personality in the marketplace, and obviously have or seem to have a significant size following as far as I can tell. So yeah, what are your thoughts on this? What helps to build connection? What helps to build responsiveness? Right?
Yeah, what's worked, what hasn't worked. It's cool.
It's it's very interesting. As a matter of fact, I mean, I'm in. We'll talk about doing some interviews later, but that'll be super cool.
Okay.
So with the X Factor, one of the coolest parts that I think most people miss is that, first of all, most people don't build an autoresponder sequence at all, right? And again, if you're not going to be focused just on email, then you just have to apply the sequencing piece to whatever medium you're working with. But like in email specifically, right? Once they get on your list, people are like, oh, I'm going to send an autoresponder sequence in order to get people to, on my webinar, and then they're going to hear from me whenever I send out an email. And there are more aggressive email marketers that send out daily, and there are less aggressive marketers that send out less frequently, and then there are sporadic email marketers that send out when they want to. And the power of building a automated sequence that really brings people through that process is that everybody meets you the same way or pretty similar, right? And you can have 10 or 20 or 30 touch points, over whatever period of time you decide, or more, right? And having that automated piece is just so, if you do it right, and if you set it up in the right way, and you really think through the psychological process that people are going through, it completely changes the game. It completely changes the game.
God, I love what Garrett's saying here. He's we are two birds of a feather, Garrett. I love the first two points that you're making there.
That's right. Garrett says, take a stand, and that means being willing to polarize. And the next one is give a shit about your tribe and empower and defend them.
For sure. True. It's so interesting. Like being willing to take a stand and being willing to polarize also means that you're standing in integrity and willing to say who should not be a part of your circle of influence, who should not be paying attention to you, and being clear that that's who you don't want to serve, and telling them so, not as a technique to dare them to opt in, but as a true service to have them find help elsewhere.
That's right.
And truly mean it. I totally agree. Say what must be said and not what is politically correct. Man, yeah, like that goes right in with all the previous two things that you said. Just be yourself and quit putting on airs. Be who you are.
Right.
Tellman makes no apologies for his crazy beard and antics, and nor should he.
But to be fair, sometimes it bites you in the ass, right? So it is possible to make significant, large-scale social errors. I can tell you this. I've totally done it by doing or saying something wrong time, wrong place, and so that doesn't mean, like everything, there's consequences if you. Yeah,
but the way that I look at it, Tillman, is I'd rather they find that out now, ahead of time, than it's like when you're dating, you become somebody that you're not, and if you're not your true self, when you get married to that person, they discover that hey, wait a minute, it wasn't who I thought you were, because you weren't being that person, but you were acting for as long as you could act to be that person. And then all of a sudden you revert back to yourself and everybody's pissed off at you. Better they find out who you are prior to that than after the effect. And yeah, man, Garrett, are you in my brain?
So actually you have the A to A process, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a great time to segue. So first of all, if you guys are interested in learning more about how to increase the responsiveness and your connection with your people on the way in, as they enter your world, even if they've been on your list for a long time, don't worry, this doesn't rule you out. Joshua put together an amazing amazing process called the asshole to advisor process. And we were just looking at it. It's been absolutely fantastic stuff. It will introduce you to some of these ideas, right?
Yeah, on two levels too, by the way. You'll get to see how I'm doing it personally, how Telman and I are using this and leveraging it and creating it. And you'll also learn insights from my point of view as to, you know, how to apply this in your own life. And from that point of view, like some specific tactical things, as well as, you know, the actual case study of how I'm using it. Nothing to buy, Garrett, but thank you. Telman, you want to drop that link in, or yeah, I just
drop it in on Restream, and I'll go pop it into the groups as well. I will absolutely shoot you a DM, Garrett, and I'm sure we'd have some funny things to talk about.
Yeah, it's in the comments, and if you can put your comment up on the screen, at least people can see it if they want to, you know, type it in. It's pretty simple. It's just go/A to A.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So it's I'm just going to go and drop it in the various videos. Here you go. And yeah, Garrett, it was great seeing you, and I look forward to catching up. Thanks for stopping in and spending some time. It's good connecting.
Awesome.
And then actually.
Go ahead, Telman. I was just gonna share something while you were dropping the last link.
Go right ahead.
What's up, Ted? So the thing that I discovered back in the day is that this bond, you know, happens by default if you don't design it in there, right? So like you create hyper responsives. These are the people that Dan Kennedy, I love his description of this, even though it was so visceral. He would say, those are the people that drink your Kool-Aid. Those are your hyper responsives. And if you don't do anything at all, it naturally falls between 4 and 5%, meaning that every 100 customers that buy from you, 4 or 5 of them become your zealots automatically. Yep. They love what you do. They can't get enough of it. They say, you know, whatever you got, I'm in, you know, I'll write you a check. You know, matter of fact, keep my credit card on file and just bill me anytime you come up with something new.
That's right.
Those are your exciting things, right? Now, on the other side of the equation, what I didn't know, and this is what I kind of stumbled onto accidentally, and that's what I built the X Factor around, is that there are ways. The X Factor is one of them. The case study that I just shared is another one of how you can increase from the natural default standing that just happens by accident and design it into your process such that it doesn't fall at 4% or 5%, but you increase it to 25, 30%. Right. I've had it as high as 60% of my list, depending on how I've segmented it and built that relationship with, that is just super, super responsive. And it's not that difficult. It just, you know, you got to think back to what, you know, you learned in preschool about making friends. And
oh, crap. You know,
that's
the problem that I've been having. I never learned that part, Joshua. Jesus.
Yeah, neither did I. That's why I had to analyze all this and figure it out and you know, go through. I forget what the saying is, but the other side of the elegant simplicity on the other side of complexity, there's simple, and then there's all the crap and that you got to go through to make it so simple on the other side that it's actually actionable and practical.
That's right.
I forget what the quote is, but that's the basic thing, right? Where I had to go through all this complexity to try to figure out and make it simpler. And, you know, guess what? I'm doing it again. I'm going through the complexity to make it simpler on other things, you know, and we're definitely in some things still in the complexity stage.
Right. So, okay, so X Factor, that's one of the ways, right? One of the ways that you can increase the responsiveness of your list, but it's definitely not the only one. If you guys have questions about this, please ask them. We'd love to hear about what niche, market, or industry you're in. So whatever niche, market, or industry you're in, if you could share that so we have a little bit of an idea of who's listening in right now and what your specific needs and
Yeah, and if you're like Garrett and have some experiences and some thoughts and some points of view, even if they're completely opposite ours, go ahead and share them. We'd love
please
to
chime in.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And Ted, hello, by the way. Good to see you. Marilyn, hello if you're still with us. I think
Ted, what's your mastermind? Is there a particular theme or topic that you have in your virtual mastermind group?
Just who are you curious. Asking?
Ted.
Oh.
Because he IM'd me yesterday and asked if I wanted to be a guest on his mastermind, and absolutely, I'd be honored to. And he thinks that his mastermind group would really love the NPOD stuff that we were talking about yesterday.
Cool.
And this A to A case study stuff, I think, would be even more profound for them. Anyway, I was just curious what if there was a particular business theme or approach that his mastermind took.
Yeah, awesome. Got it. Very cool. So, responsiveness. How else can you increase the responsiveness of your list? Well, I'm going to give you one way that you can immediately take to the bank. And this is not hard. You can do it today. As a matter of fact, you can do it in the next 20 minutes. So I've done a bunch of different techniques like this, but the best one that I've seen so far is Dean Jackson's 9-word email technique that he teaches.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, one of the ways that you can increase the responsiveness of your list is by asking them more questions. The way you get people to talk to you and interact with you is by listening. And asking your email list questions and having them respond to you via email. It's not nearly as convenient as doing an online survey, and often it's not as immediately profitable as doing an online survey that has a sales process built into it, right? Like Kern's old survey siphon model, or any of Ryan Levesque's Ask Method stuff, right, or any of the bucket surveys that are those are all great for lots of reasons. But what we're talking about here is increasing the responsiveness of your list. And so when you ask your list specific questions, here's one thing. Here's a tip. Ask them only opinion-based questions where no matter how they answer, they cannot be wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. What color is your hair? I mean, the only way they could be wrong is if they're bald, but then they'll say, I'm bald, I don't have any hair, right? So they're still not wrong. They're still, or what's your favorite color? What's your favorite food, right? Do you like sports? These are all opinion-based questions. And the reason you want to ask open-ended opinion-based questions is because the reason people won't respond, especially in email, partially is because they don't want to be criticized, right? They don't want to feel like they are stupid, or that someone who they respect, which is you, they don't want to give you the wrong answer. They don't
want to be wrong either.
Yeah, I mean, think about back in like class growing up, elementary school. Who wants to like raise their hand and speak out and be wrong? Like nobody does, right? And so you can ask these. I mean, I don't just want to reteach Deaton's technique, but I would encourage you guys to look.
No, but
it up.
You know what I love about Dean's technique, and you asked me yesterday what was like the biggest aha moment that you've had in business and marketing recently, and I talked about Kurt Malley, and I think it was maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I had a similar like holy shit experience with Dean Jackson's insights.
Yeah,
and it has to do with this 9-word email. In that he discovered, the reason why he invented it, he discovered that, and this blew my mind, that when somebody is in buying mode, that 80+% of the purchases are made over between 90 days and 6 months to a year after their first initial inquiry. And that blew my mind, because that means that everybody, even if they have what they consider to be a long tail, which would be like 30 days, that's what they would consider to be a long follow-up process. they're missing 80 to 90% of their business because those people don't end up purchasing, but they do purchase eventually.
Right.
But they purchase from somebody else, a competitor or somebody that stayed in touch or that contacted them somewhere between the 90-day mark and the 1 year mark.
That's
so that's like, holy shit. And that's what, like the brilliance of the 9-word email is just to remind them that you have something that they might want and that they should look into it, and just simply ask them the question, are you still in, or do you still want to know more? And it's a way of re-engaging them that's phenomenal and so simple because it's like a personal email. It's direct, and it's just working with the numbers, brilliant.
Depending on the industry and how it's done, buying leads can be considered cool or uncool, sketchy or not sketchy.
Right.
So when I'm talking about buying leads, I'm talking about legitimate leads, hopefully that aren't resold over and over and over and over and over again.
Right.
But I just had this, but many of them are, and realize that if you're buying leads, like generally speaking, that's not necessarily the type of list we're talking about right now. It can be. You can apply the same principles. They're still real people. Sure. But it's much harder on that mass bulk level to build a deep connection if you're buying leads. But here's what I just realized as you were talking. Like, who's in the business of buying old leads?
We used to do it all the time.
Old leads, intentionally aged leads.
Oh, we used to do it all the time. We used to buy them and sell them intentionally.
Aged ones?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's like cheese.
Or fine wine.
That's right. Let those leads age. It's a very different way of thinking about it, right?
It is, but you've got to, your strategy's got to shift, right? And it's got to be what Garrett talked about as his first key insight, which is you got to give a shit. You got to give a fuck about them and truly take a stand for them and defend them. And because you truly deeply care about the subject and about them, whatever that is. And if you'll do that, if you'll come from that frame of reference, then you can, create, it's not a question of if they're going to buy, but when. And when is up to them. Don't have it be on your terms. If you're truly serving them, continue to serve them and let them know that you're ready to do business with them when they're ready to do business with you, wherever that might fall.
Yeah.
Offer so that, because you never know until you ask, you never know whether the timing has shifted where they're now in or not.
Very cool. So here's what happens, guys. You send an email out. People open it. Now you want these to be short, okay? In Dean's 9-word email, you just go. Often you just put the first name in the subject line, and you're just like, "Do you still want help with blank?" Question mark, and then you don't even sign it. Just send it. One sentence. Perhaps
a lot of people screw this up and they put it in
with no capitalization. Okay, and you just make it look like a quick personal email. And what happens is, first of all, humans read it and humans engage. So the first thing that you're doing is you're going to get a crap load more of your people to open your email, to read it, and respond than you probably ever have. Okay. Now you could ask them what color are their eyes. But why? Right now, maybe you're just weird and whatever, and that's fine. I might do it and get away with it, but you're probably going to need to bring it back around to something, right? And so having it be topical, niche oriented, or at least the demographic of your tribe oriented, and a problem or challenge that they're probably facing and or have exhibited or they're facing right now, or so engage with them around something that they want, right? Problem they want to solve, an outcome they want to get, and ask them questions. Now, the first thing that happens is that they respond, and now you've engaged on an organic human level. Okay, that's real. The second thing that's real is the Gmail algorithm. Okay, So the more people that respond to you, the more it tells Gmail that that email and your emails and emails from your email address and your sender are legit, because people are responding to your emails and they're not clicking on the spam button. That's Gmail's green light for you to help to inbox you more. Okay.
Does that halo effect carry over to other service providers other than Gmail, or is it just that because Gmail's the
they
big...
all have their own algorithm and they all work differently. I'm mentioning Gmail because it's the single biggest one, and Gmail rules them all. Gmail's the mammoth, the monster. Yeah, so it helps get you inboxed for everyone, period. Gmail happens to be the big player, right? But then you and or your client customer support team now has the opportunity to reply to those emails. And when you reply to those emails, that also tells all the email providers that you're also legitimate and responding to the emails that your people are sending you.
Yeah.
So this is also something you can start doing. This is another tip. 2 more tips. Watch this. Number 1, respond to every email you receive. Okay? Now, this is easier than it used to be. And the reason it's easier than it used to be is because deliverability is harder and more complicated. People are spending more time segmenting their lists, pruning their lists, only keeping real people on their list and not having lots of people. So lists overall are small, like healthy lists right now are smaller and more responsive versus the giant mammoth multi-100,000 or million plus lists that used to be all over the place back in the day.
Yeah.
And that's because deliverability is harder. You have to put more time into cleaning your stuff, right?
Yep.
But if you reply to everyone, or at least everyone that seems legitimate, right? Don't reply to spam. Or I don't know what would happen if you did, but anyway, that's up to you.
You get more spam is what you'd get.
Okay, I would recommend that you reply to the real emails and reply to every single one and try to help. In every single one, try to help. And so
even if it's a complaint.
Right. So again, so when you're writing a response email, just like when you're writing copy, every line, every sentence is meant to get people to read the next sentence, right? Well, with email, every email is meant to get the person to respond to that email. And so you want to keep that email volley going back and forth as long as possible. Okay. And I know that costs money and it costs time. And you're going to be like, why am I doing this? And you're doing this in order to consistently have a super responsive email list. That's why you're doing it. Right.
You can also double leverage that because you can talk about that in a future, email that gets sent to your entire population, and you can edify the person that you were having this email conversation with and share even if you don't want to necessarily share the person's name and identity personally, but you can talk about so-and-so, or this person said this, and what ends up happening is that they want the rest of your list wants to be edified and wants to be recognized and put up on the pedestal like the person that you're talking about in there. So now they become more responsive too. Anyway, sorry, right. I didn't mean to break your flow there.
Totally true. Totally true. So so here's the other piece, right? You can do this in a broadcast form. So you can send out a question today, right? Broadcast, get a bunch of responses, reply to them, and during the process of the replying, you can drop links to your appropriate products and services that will solve their problems that they're asking for help with, right? Great, cool. You can, the way Dean teaches this in his big course is he teaches people how to then continue that conversation and sell high ticket, 3-day, $5,000 to $8,000 events all through email. After getting these initial responses, which is genius, and that email volley back and forth, and it totally works. We used to fill up our Wealth Method 3-day Wealth Hypnosis Weekend events, just with this process several times, and so you can do these things in broadcasts, but then you can take the emails that work and you can pop them into your autoresponder sequence. And I would encourage you to pop them in early. So you pop them into your autoresponder sequence, and now you have a steady stream of new questions and interaction and opinions and insights coming in all the time. And early on in that
way, yeah.
You're just consistently then proving back to Google and the other email providers that you're legit, right?
Right.
So that works really well. And just to give you one more totally awesome thing you can do that is the same thing, but a slightly different application. This crushes vacation autoresponders. So most email software, however you're handling your broadcast email in your inbox, most email software will allow you to activate a vacation autoresponder email. Gmail has this feature. What you do is you write an email that says, hey, thanks so much for writing. I got your email. We're totally swamped right now, and I'm going to get back to you personally tomorrow, right? While you're waiting, have you seen this awesome video I just made?
Awesome. Great tip.
Right? And then it links them to your best funnel. And, or whatever, whatever it is you're focused on promoting. And what that will do is it acknowledges that they sent something and that you received it. It sets them up to expect a personal communication from you in the not too distant future. And it generates sales all at the same time while showing the email providers that you're legit and increasing your deliverability, all with one little vacation autoresponder email.
Smart.
So some of the more advanced email systems like ActiveCampaign, for example, you can set, or Drip, you can set it up so that whenever people reply to an email, they will then get this other email, or whenever people open an email, they will get this other email. And so you can set other triggers like that to just begin this process as well. Works really well.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great tip. The other thing that is kind of an advanced tip that just came up for me that I'll share, but only Gene, don't pay attention to this because you're not there yet. But for those people that start to build a team and you're worried about like who's going to respond to this, and or if you're going to be outsourcing for customer service or those types of things that take the first pass at some of these interactions with people. First thing, like do Tellman's autoresponder vacation tip there. That's brilliant. But then there's also shared inboxes services where you can have multiple people on the same email account and you can make notes and see who's handling what. And it's kind of like a help desk, but for one specific email channel or communication channel, and it makes it easy to have a consistent voice and also make sure that the people get their responses, maybe there's a different department that needs to handle some sort of a response. And there's all sorts of services that does this. My preferred choice right now is HelpWise. I'm using that and loving it. But there's all sorts of different solutions out there, but it's very useful to have that one, central location so that, you don't have to give your admin people or your outsourced people your login information and then they're messing up with, and they don't know where you are on things. And, everybody's saying the same thing and responding to different things and there's no communication and it gets really screwed up. And worst of all, your prospective clients' experience gets screwed up.
Right. Right. No, there are a lot of things to think about. But the good news is that as you start applying these things, you're really going to see a significant and immediate difference.
For sure.
I'm going to give you one more, and then we should probably call it, huh?
I think so.
Consider loading your list up into a different autoresponder service. Now, what I'm saying is I'm not saying dump your existing autoresponder unless that's something that you're already ready to do, right? What I'm saying is consider loading your list up into a different autoresponder service and sending out to it a couple of times and seeing what the differences are of the results that you get. And it is a mixed bag. You do need to ask around. You do need to talk to people, find out what's going to work for you, what's going to work for your industry, what's going to work for your list size, what's going to work for your budget.
Yep.
But often you can double your money simply by having your list in two places.
Well, that's where Travis's campaign Refinery comes into effect. That is super powerful because it's all managed from one location. So you can split test different senders with the same email broadcast. It's pretty badass.
Totally badass. Totally badass. Awesome, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's responsiveness talk. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you don't. Hit us up with any questions you have. And I'm going to go ahead and show this again. Actually, I'm just going to show this. And then if you guys, I'll go ahead and pop that link back into the various videos. Again, let's see, copy link address. So yeah, if you guys could, if you're interested in the kind of stuff that we're talking about here, then what you should do is click on the link and go to the A-to-A process that Joshua has put together here, and you're going to love it. I mean, Joshua, you just want to get a little A-to-A process commercial. This is not something that you need to buy. This is totally a free resource that Joshua created.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome on two levels, if I do say so myself. Level number one is that it's going to give you the actual knowledge of how, how to apply this from the 7 steps that actually take place in building relationship from asshole to advisor. And it's the process of building that X factor in. So it's going to teach you about all of that. And at the same time that it's teaching you that and giving you the insights necessary to go out and put it into practical application for your own needs and uses, you'll get to see one way that I'm doing it personally, because the case study is in and of itself one of my processes of helping people go from A to A, from complete stranger of not knowing me and building that bond with them, strategically. And actually, it's one of the teaching models that we do. This isn't, because I'm giving it away for free, I don't want to undervalue it. Because we actually go in depth on this in our with our NPOD clients. And really everything that we're doing is an extension of this case study in terms of how to, mold it to your specific needs and purposes and how to apply it. But this is the foundation of it all. And really it is the X factor. It is this whole journey of how we're doing it. And it's a combination of web and emails. And you'll get to see one aspect of it.
Awesome. All right, everybody. I think that's all we've got for today. Great seeing you. Great talking with you, Joshua. And
likewise, man.
Reminder, you and I need to talk about something we were talking about before we started live streaming today.
I remember it.
Great. Let's get, you want to get on the phone now?
Sure.
Cool. All right. We'll talk to you in a minute. Thanks, guys.
See you guys.
See you tomorrow.